Hey there. In this episode, I'm going to talk about rumination, intrusive thoughts, how to identify them, and what you can do to begin to change them and move away from them. This episode in particular is about turning the other way and looking inwards in an effort to observe what's going on in your thinking patterns and in your emotional patterns in order to make change. And I'm going to make a suggestion that as a human being, you have this very powerful brain that you've been gifted with. And I'm going to also suggest that you are not a cow. You are not a ruminant. You don't eat grass. And so I'd like to suggest that you stop ruminating wherever possible.
Stop chewing your cud!
If you haven't figured it out yet by now, a lot of these videos and this content that I'm putting out is about making inner psychological changes in the realm of the field where you're experiencing your anxiety or depression. And so one of the most important skills for making positive change in your life, in your internal space and in your life, is the ability to observe yourself. And this is a very difficult field to get into. It is not simple because we're not typically trained and experienced in looking back at ourselves. We're typically, all of our senses are focused on the world outside of us. We're drawn to the world around us, all of the action and the change and the food and the things to do and the people. Early on in my particular journey, I stumbled around a lot because I didn't really understand the concept of witnessing and observing, the idea of self-observation. And the more that I read now and look around in the literature, they're in some pretty interesting places, not where you would normally expect, but repeatedly come across expressions that clearly state that you can only really change your internal states by learning to observe yourself first. Unless you can develop the skill of watching what's going on in your internal psychology, it's really difficult to create the necessary change in order to get out of the labyrinth of emotional overwhelm. So this discussion today is basically about that. It's about intrusive thoughts, how to identify them, and what you can do to begin to change them and move away from them. First off, let's have a bit of a discussion about what I'm talking about in terms of intrusive thoughts. Oftentimes throughout the day, we can be doing something, we can be doing one thing, and while we're doing that thing, there can be thoughts running in our brain. And it's fine, there's always thoughts coming and going, depending on as we move through the day and things that we encounter. But what isn't really normal, what isn't really healthy, I should say, what really isn't resourceful is for us to take our focus away from whatever it is that we're currently concentrating on and our energy to be consumed by thoughts running in the background in our minds. And so a great example of this is any kind of thought that is negative, that just keeps recurring and coming back and pulling your attention away from whatever it is that you're doing in the moment, basically pulling your presence and your focus away. So any thought that's negative or that is disturbing or distracting is what I consider to be an intrusive thought. And so it's really important to, number one, recognize when they surface, and number two is to really identify their quality, if they're negative and if they're not helping you. So basically any thought that you start focusing on that isn't constructive and isn't going to help you in the moment, it really is an intrusive, distractive, disturbing thought that takes away from your experience of being present. A great time to do this that I find when you're doing menial tasks like washing the dishes or things where you don't really need all of your attention to wash dishes or to clean. These are two activities that are very helpful. But if you're washing the dishes and you find that you're thinking about other things and you're not focused on the temperature of the water, the cleanliness of whatever dish that you're cleaning, or you're thinking about like space on the dish rack or whatever, stuff like that, things that are specifically related to the act of cleaning the dishes, the water, the soap, the dishes, the cutlery, all that stuff. While you're washing dishes, if you start noticing what's going on, the thoughts, the predominant thoughts that are recurrently repeating in your mind, these thoughts that pull you away, this is typically what we refer to when psychologists refer to now as rumination, where we just keep going back and energizing these thoughts that actually don't actually help us in any way. And so if you're continually finding yourself going back into these repeated feedback loops, these loops of thought, these circular thoughts that don't really lead anywhere, but just keep coming back, every time that you focus on them and you identify with or latch onto, right? You have a thought, and then you allow your presence, your awareness to latch onto and to focus on. Every time you do that, you're actually giving that thought pattern more energy. You're strengthening the groove, like grooves in a record. And so this is what you kind of want to avoid. This is the pattern. This latching on and identifying to the intrusive negative thought is what you want to break. And there's a variety of different ways that you can do this. If going back to the dishwashing scenario, if you're washing dishes, is to do exactly that, is to take your focus, say no to those intrusive thoughts, and go back, put your focus on the feel of the water on your hands, the temperature, the feel of the dishes. Go back to the thoughts of what the order that you're going to wash things in. Basically, narrow the focus of your thinking down immediately to exactly what you were doing in the moment. That is one mechanism. I've said in a previous video, there's another mechanism, the internal stop method, where if you're having a recurring negative thought and it's really intrusive and it's really pulling your awareness away from what you're trying to focus on, there is a method, it's called the internal stop method, where you basically say, stop. You can actually, without speaking, if you can try it, you can try this. If I can say stop in my mind without actually speaking. And you can direct that energy at that line of thinking and thereby stop it. And you can do that, and it may try to like sneak back in again. And so this is where you can try another exercise, which is basically the foundation of CBT, or cognitive behavioral therapy, is where you replace the thought with a more positive one. So you stop the negative one, and then you think of something constructive. You shift your mode of thinking onto something more positive that in the moment will actually assist you and be more helpful and resourceful. And so if you repeat that pattern of stopping a negative intrusive thought when it occurs and replace it with a positive one, you basically, over a period of time, you will be able to shift. Anytime that a negative thought arises, you'll be able to shift automatically. And the more often you do it, like any other skill in life, the more repetitions you do, the more efficient you get, the better you get at doing it. And over a period of time, you'll actually be able to de-energize the negative thought entirely and have a more resourceful series of positive thoughts that you're now thinking about. Which are where there's a big difference between having an incessant loop of negative thoughts versus an incessant loop of positive thoughts. If you're thinking positive all the time, then you're moving into positive territory and you're actually growing and creating more space and expanding your life basically. And so that's another technique. So it's a really important thing to understand that when you are stuck in negative thoughts and negative thinking, a lot of your mental energy, a lot of your life energy is actually being consumed by those negative, intrusive, and disturbing thoughts. And we only have a certain limited amount of energy available to us in every day. And so you can imagine that over a period of time, if you're constantly, your energy is being sucked by these energetic vampires of negative thoughts, your energy from the other areas of your life is being pulled away. And as a result of this, negative thoughts alone can actually really disturb your emotional state and as well your physiological, your actual physical state. It can run you down. And a great example of this is actually depression in itself, because depression kind of does represent holistically the rundown state of both the mental space, the emotional space, and the body, where you get to that point of inertia where you feel like doing nothing. And that's because your energy to do things has been sucked away into negative thought patterns and negative associations and negative thinking. And so another thing to be aware of is that these negative thought patterns, the reason why it's so important to get a handle on them as quickly as possible is that they can build up, they can accumulate, and the concept of disease, dis-ease, a lack of ease, is the result of this negative energy that accumulates in the body that can start from the intrusive negative thoughts, then migrate down into your feeling state, your emotions, and then repeated negative emotions over a period of time actually get stored in the body. And that negative energy really is what causes physical ailments and disease. So it's really important. So going back again, I don't want to go in too much depth. I don't want to throw too much information at you at this particular juncture. But just to review, negative thinking and recurring negative thoughts, you want to start non-identifying or detaching yourself from those negative thoughts. If you are recurrently engaging, if you're repeatedly engaging with these negative thought patterns, that is what's known as rumination. You're basically in your brain, you're chewing your cud, you're like a cow who's swallowed the grass, has burped it back up, has regurgitated it into the mouth after some microbes have digested it in the first lobe of the stomach. You're chewing it again, swallowing it again, letting it sit, regurgitating it, chewing it again. And this constant chewing, this constant gnawing of these negative thoughts in your mind, consuming all of this energy, is the process of mental rumination. And so again, I'm going to go back, I'll review the first main thing you need to be able to do, the first skill that is important to produce change, is the ability to take the witness stance, the witness state, or to observe yourself, also known as self-observation, is to stand back and notice yourself. Turn your observing senses away from your outside sensations of sight and sound and touch, and pay attention to what's going on inside in your inner space. And while you're doing this, again, look at the quality. So when you start observing, self-observing, you want to look at the quality of the thought, how often it's recurring. And the more dominant recurring negative thoughts that are consistently appearing, those are the ones you need to start working against. You need to start struggling with them. So again, mechanisms for doing this is the internal stop method. Say stop internally, shift your focus to something positive or something in the moment, whatever you're doing. If you're cleaning, focus on the cleaning. Focus on the dusty, dirty bits and removing it. Focus on, if you're washing dishes, focus on the temperature of the water. Focus on what you're touching and feeling and doing. But yeah, so in a lot of ways, this is in itself, as well as going beyond the practice of I'm having a hard time speaking today. Going beyond the practice of self-observation, these menial tasks, you can actually turn them into a form of meditation. And this really kind of is one form of meditation. It's meditation with a meditation object, where you are doing something and then you are becoming aware of the focus of your mind with mindfulness and awareness. And then you are shifting. When you notice that you're focusing on the negative thoughts, you shift them back to whatever it is you're doing, which is your meditation object, which is washing the dishes, or it is whatever else you choose that is your center that you come back to. And in other ways, again, there are other various forms, simple forms of meditation, the meditation exercise where you focus on your breathing, and wherever your thoughts start to wander, you bring your attention back to your breathing, the in-breath and the out-breath, and slowing your breath and the spaces between the in-breath and the out-breath. And this, again, is taking your mental focus where it's going into the mental chatter and the being pulled astray by random intrusive thoughts, and bringing your center back down onto a meditation object such as your breath. So anyways, I'm going to leave it there. Again, I'm just going to leave you with this. We are not cattle. We are human beings. We don't eat grass. And so it makes sense for me to suggest that you should stop chewing your cud, and whenever possible, attempt to stop ruminating. Anyways, that's it for today. I hope this episode has been helpful for you. And if you would like more information or access to resources, feel free to check out the website, www.changeyourmind.life. And once again, it has been a pleasure having you here. Your presence is truly a gift. And we'll see you later. Bye.
Stop chewing your cud!
Not really the best environment to be hiking around in flip-flops, but oh my, look at that. That's a rough grouse. Look at that beautiful bird. Beautiful forest ground-dwelling bird called the ruffed grouse. Buddy, you're cool. I see you. You're cool. It's all good. You're pretty. You're pretty. You're pretty. Rough grouse over there. But I'm just going to introduce you to my buddy Doug. We go back a long ways as well. It's my buddy Doug. Douglas. I guess they're twins. Doug and Doug. Doug and Doug. Just walking along and came across a beautiful little splash of yeller. Look at those guys. So pretty. Look at that. Oh yeah. We're yellow. We're yellow. Look at us. We're yellow.